Welcome to our webinar on the Senior Leader Master's Degree Apprenticeship Programme produced by the Centre for Executive Training and Development within Lancaster University's Management School. This webinar is designed to give more information to potential students, their line managers and apprentice leads, specifically giving you an overview of our programme, its learning, teaching and assessment design, the 20% off the job element, and the support we provide for students, line managers, and apprentice leads. Our program is an integrated one, combining a master's level qualification with the Senior Leader Apprenticeship, and upon successful completion of the program, students will gain professional accreditation from either the Chartered Management Institute or the Institute of Leadership and Management. It's fully funded through the apprenticeship levy with 2 starting points a year, September and March. There's also an accelerated route for suitable applicants via accreditation of prior learning. Our program is organised around 3 key themes aligned with the Senior Leader Apprentice Standards. They are organisational performance, interpersonal excellence, and personal and interpersonal effectiveness. Throughout the course of the program, the students will be creating a portfolio evidencing their knowledge, skills, and behaviours against these 3 elements. In terms of our learning design, delivery, and assessment, here is what students can expect. An intensive 2-day introduction to the program on Lancaster University campus. Facilitated diverse online learning activities. 6 thematic workshops delivered face-to-face. Integrated apprenticeship e-portfolio building activities. Postgraduate study support, helping students with any aspects of academic reading, writing, and critical thinking. Practical assessments focused very much on the learner's role and their context, and no exams. And importantly, opportunities for social learning within and across organisations, helping students build professional networks. So here's a visual representation of our programme. At the top, you'll see there's a skills scan linked to the apprenticeship standards. And very early on, we ask potential students to submit an online skills scan for a couple of reasons. Number 1, it gives a good indication to them about which knowledge, skills, and behaviours they currently possess against those apprenticeship standards and which they could evidence already. So that's a good baseline and a good working document for them as they progress through the program, the idea being that our program develops those knowledge, skills, and behaviours. But number 2, it's a good indication to apprentice leads and to university program directors about which route individual students should take. The left-hand side of this document represents our full program route, and the right-hand side represents our fast track or accelerated route. So if that skills scan indicates that the student already possesses many of the knowledge, skills, and behaviours, if they tell us they've been operating at senior leader level for a good 5 years or more, if they've gained a lot of experiential learning, if they feel they could evidence the learning outcomes of those first year modules, then we would suggest they come in and do the fast track route, which means they would gain credits against those first year modules, and they would start in year 2 of the program with the modules in the orange box. You'll also note at the top that following the skills scan is our personal planning session. So we use the skills scan and have a discussion with the students about which route is the best route for them. And that's called our personal planning session with your university program director and your apprentice lead. And finally, at the top, you'll also note that English and Maths at GCSE level is a requirement of the apprenticeship program. So students need to possess English and Maths, and we need to see evidence in the form of certificates. If students don't have certificates, then they can go online and request replacement copies. If they don't have their English and Maths, then we can support them in gaining these functional skills. In terms of assessment, then, there are two parts. There's that which is required for the master's qualification and that which is required to gain membership of either the CMI or the ILM. In terms of the academic assignments, these are all work integrated tasks and projects that have real impact for the apprentice's professional development and their workplace requirements. So these are things like case studies, observations, critical reflections, and presentations. We also offer students feedback on their dry run of their apprenticeship project showcase in preparation for that endpoint assessment. In terms of the apprenticeship, students will be showcasing their portfolio and their project and engaging in a professional discussion with that endpoint assessor. Let's turn our attention now to the flexible 20% off the job learning. First of all, it needs to be noted that 2/3 of that 20% are already earmarked for activities linked to the master's degree program. So this includes the 2 introductory days, the 6 thematic workshop days, the private study, the assessment preparation, and all the mentored activity through the course of the program. The remaining 1/3 is negotiated individually between the apprentice and their line manager with the support of the university mentor. At the beginning of the program, we support line managers to identify and plan activities for the 20% in the apprentice commitment statement. We also appreciate that timings need to be flexible and they need to fit with the realities of individual workplaces. There are regular tripartite monitoring visits with the apprentice, the line manager, and their university mentor. And finally, we recognize that learning happens outside the classroom. It happens in the workplace, and it's currently happening with the additional duties that apprentices are already doing. So we count anything that happens within core hours but provides new knowledge and skills against those apprentice standards. Let's look at an example then for a full-time employee and how they might spend their 747 hours of off-the-job learning over the 26 months of their program. Now, as I said in my previous slide, 2/3 of those hours are already earmarked for those master's level activities that students will be engaging in. So that's approximately 495 hours. The remaining 252 hours need to be identified in terms of 3 categories: theoretical learning, practical learning, and learning support. And here I'll give you some examples of what types of activities fall into each of those categories. So in terms of theoretical learning, that might involve looking very closely at work policies, engaging in knowledge exchange, listening to a podcast or a TED Talk, for example. In terms of practical learning, that might involve engaging in professional networks, going on an organizational visit, or shadowing a colleague in a different department. And in terms of learning support, that might be getting support for assignment writing or developing postgraduate study skills, or an additional catch-up with a student's mentor. Apart from the support we give then early on in the program, helping students and their line managers identify the types of activities that fall within those 3 categories of off-the-job learning, we also offer the following support for apprentices. I've already mentioned the pre-course personal planning session. We have also an apprenticeship launchpad Moodle site. That's our online virtual learning environment on which we place pre-course information, reading, resources, academic study support, etc. Each student also has a personal learning mentor, and this mentor will come termly to the student's organization to meet with them and their line manager. They also organize small group action learning sets in year 1 and engage in one-to-one coaching in year 2 to support students' projects. Each module delivered online also has a practitioner tutor to facilitate students' e-learning. And there's a good degree of peer learning support within and across organisational boundaries. Finally, as a student of Lancaster University, you get all the amenities. That includes access to the library, professional resources, master classes within the management school, health and wellbeing services, sports facilities, and membership to the Students' Union, and all the discounts it brings as well, being a student. We offer a lot of support for organisations. We take a partnership approach, working very closely with apprentice leads within organisations, meeting them quarterly to discuss the programme, to discuss students' progress, and to garner feedback which we can use to help improve the programme in the future. As discussed in earlier slides, we also offer support for line managers. We also know that apprentice learning has impact on their practice from day one. Students have told us that they look at their work-based practice differently, they're applying their theory to their everyday practice, and they're seeing things from different perspectives. In year 2 of the programme, students undertake work-integrated projects which contribute to the strategic quality of the organisation. And for organisations, it's an excellent opportunity to attract and to build talent and to succession plan. So what do individuals do next? Well, first of all, if this is the first time you're hearing about our programme, then you really need to go and confirm the apprenticeship funding is available to apply for a place, and then complete your own organisation's internal application process. It's crucial as well to obtain line manager support for the apprentice commitment requirements and to support you in the completion of that online skills scan. If your line manager hasn't seen this webinar, then please do share it. The next step after the skills scan will be to have a personal planning session with the university program director and your apprentice lead to determine which route onto the program is best for you. After that, you will submit your university application and you'll be enrolled on the program. And whilst you're waiting to start in either September or March, we'll put you on our apprenticeship launchpad so you can engage with those pre-program resources. If you're a line manager watching this webinar, then here's what you can do next. First, meet with your apprentice to negotiate the logistics of that 20% off the job learning time in preparation for completing the commitment statement at the start of the programme. Next, try to familiarise yourself with those apprenticeship standards. They exist in the form of the online skills scan, so support your apprentice in completing that scan and look for opportunities to help them achieve those apprenticeship standards. Also, try to explore ideas early on for integrating the work-based project. This will happen in year 2 for a full program student and even earlier for a fast-track student. And finally, alongside your normal one-to-one meetings, timetable termly review meetings, which will also include the University Learning Mentor. For both apprentices and line managers watching this webinar, there are 2 videos coming next. The first is an apprentice's view and the second is a line manager's view. We hope you enjoy them.
With my undergraduate degree, you're presented with a lot of information that you go away, you digest, and then you regurgitate to pass an exam. This isn't like that. This is about taking academic theory and integrating it into thoughts and ideas and things that are happening to me on a daily basis. It's playing with learning. It's really interesting. I'd never experienced anything like it before. Programme for anyone that's got an interest in developing themselves and their work skills. Myself and the colleagues on the cohort have all found that 12 months in now we're all doing things in a different way and a better way, cross-pollinating ideas across industries, which is really giving me confidence in my day-to-day work.
I think short-term initial benefits really. I've noticed that George is linking a lot of the theory and a lot of the structures and frameworks from the course into everyday working practice, so that's brilliant. He did a particular piece of work around team working, and that was really interesting to see him use the frameworks from the theory and from the modules to look at the way a team performed and see if he could improve that. So I guess initially my perspective on the course was that this would provide some long-term benefits in terms of giving George the skills and the theory and underpinning his practice that he needs to become a really high-performing manager. But it's really nice to see some short-term wins as well. I mean, for us it works quite flexibly. We don't have a rigid 20%. Some weeks it can be slightly more, some weeks it can be quite a little bit less. Yeah. So we just try and work together. I allow George the freedom to manage his time. He's a responsible adult, he's in a senior position, he should be able to do that. And initially I supported this. It's key for George's development, so part of my support was to allow him to take that 20%. So I need to be responsible and allow him to act in that way. We use a variety of things for him to get that 20%. So again, it's just about being flexible, I think. And I think for me, it's about focusing on the long-term impact that 20% will have. Short-term, it can be very difficult to take. But longer term, it'll certainly reap its rewards in terms of the efficiency. George will either make decisions or do work, or the outputs from his work. I expect it in the long run, it'll be well worth the money and the time that's spent. I mean, we have regular meetings with the university as a tripartite, I guess. So a representative from the university comes and meets with George and myself. We discuss what's going well, what could be improved. We discuss what further support George may or may not need. So I think that works really well.
That's the end of our webinar. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen. If you require any further information, then please don't hesitate to contact either your apprentice lead or the university program director, or contact our post-experience programs team at ctad@lancaster.ac.uk.